In this lesson, we'll be building the desktop version of our navigation menu by first quickly getting familiar with the new nav nestable element. For me, the one remaining big feature missing from Bricks was a flexible way of building menus, including mobile menus and mega menus. And now we have it. And thankfully, it's superb. Oh, by the way, these lessons are an update to the original lesson that used to be here. You can find that old lesson now at the end of this module. I've kept it there for reference in case you want to use the original nav menu element, which still has its advantages, as we covered last lesson. Now, just to say, I am filming this after I finish making the entire rest of the course, so you just might spot the odd thing here and there on the demo site that's from later on in the course. Like, for example, here's the finished nav menu, which at this point in the course, we haven't even made yet. Alright, so in this lesson, we'll first add the new nav nestable element, we'll examine the structure of what we get inside by default, we'll review the 5 new elements that we can use inside the new nav menu builder, and then in the next 2 lessons, we'll build the desktop nav and then the mobile version. Just to be clear, in these next few lessons, we're just building a simple nav menu. It's going to have a drop down, it's going to have a mobile menu. We're not going to be creating multi-level drop downs. We're not going to be building a mega menu. We're not going to be using the special off-canvas element to create a totally custom mobile menu experience. All of those are a bit outside the scope of this course at this point, but I'll undoubtedly cover those in later material. All right, let's get started. So I'll first delete the old nav menu element that we added before because we're doing this the new way now. Everything starts with this newer element, nav nestable. I'll search for it. Here it is. I'll click to pop it into place. Let's come over to the structure. See here how it automatically sticks itself over to the right-hand side of the header. That is because of the flex alignment we set on the parent element on this container in the last module. If you remember, come over to the settings, we aligned main axis space between. And so that is pushing the logo far left and the new nav element far to the right. With the nav element added, let's now take a look at the structure of it. You've seen already this is very different to the previous nav menu, so rather than just one single element, it's actually got several elements nested inside it as a starting point. And it's this ability to nest elements inside it that makes this nav element so powerful. Now these are just some common nested elements given to us as a starting point, but you can nest literally any Bricks element that you like in here. As I mentioned last lesson, if you want to pop a little logo in here or a search box or a button, it's all doable. In fact, this isn't a new concept in Bricks. If I search Nestable in the Elements panel, you can see here Bricks also has nestable accordions, nestable tabs, nestable sliders. Again, so that you can have accordions and tabs or sliders with literally anything that you like inside them. You're not restricted by what the Bricks developers have decided you can have. Anyway, back over to the new nav structure. Now this is just a default starting point. Before we start building our own nav, let's first break down what we have here step by step. It's actually very logical. So we have a top level element. It's called nav nestable. Everything is nested inside it. Just come over to the settings on the left. You can see the element has an HTML tag of nav, which if you know any basic HTML, that means it's the main top level nav element. It's the wrapper around the entire navigation. And this is the bit that tells accessibility screen readers that this is the navigation. And here in this top level nav nestable element, you can style all the items at the top level of the menu, your top level items all at once. You can also style all the drop downs at once, although you can override that on any individual drop down element that you like. And also you can style the mobile menu here too. Back over to the structure. So inside that is a block element called nav items. Now you'll notice here that you actually can't delete that element because it's a crucial part of the menu structure. It's actually this block that also wraps the entire mobile menu as well. Let's come over to its settings on the left. So you can see here it has an HTML tag of UL. That stands for unordered list. And again, if you know any basic HTML, you'll know that a list always starts with a UL tag, and then everything else nested inside it are the individual list items. Now, if that means nothing to you, don't worry about it. Back over to the structure. Nested inside nav items are the top level items in the menu. So you can see here that we have a couple of nav links here by default. This is home. This is about. We also have a drop down element here as well. And inside that is also nested some content. So this is the content that is inside the drop down. And then finally, still inside nav items, is an element called toggle. Now this toggle element is the link that is going to close the mobile menu, like the X icon. Now this element isn't going to display on the page unless we're in mobile mode and we have the mobile menu open. And logically, I suppose, it has to be inside the menu on the same level as the rest of the links so that you can actually click it to close it. And then outside of the entire nav, but still within Nav Nestable, is another toggle element. And this time, this is going to be the hamburger icon that opens the mobile menu. You can see, again, this is inside the Nav Nestable main nav element, of course, but it's not actually inside the block with the nav items. This has to be separate. So that's the basic gist of the structure of the Nav Nestable element and how it works. But now you might be wondering, all right, nice starting point, but how do I build my own menu from here? Great question. Well, let me show you the 5 new elements we have to play with. I'll open the elements list, close the single group down, scroll down to general. So at the top of the general list here, we have 5 new elements: Nav Nestable, drop down, off canvas, and toggle. And if we scroll back up to the basic group, you'll see we also have a new element called text link. That's actually the same element that if we come across, it's these nav links. Bricks basically just renames those to nav link so it's clearer the job they're doing. It's actually the text link element. Back over to elements. So here, Nav Nestable is the actual nav menu. That's the parent element for the entire nav. It's where you can set the style for all the menu links at once, all the drop downs, and your mobile menu. Now, if the provided styling controls for the mobile menu in here aren't enough for you, you can instead use the off canvas element to create your own completely custom mobile menu experience. So to be clear, you don't need off canvas to create mobile menus. The mobile menu builder that comes as part of Nav Nestable is great, but it's just if you need the extra flexibility, then you can use the off canvas element and build whatever kind of mobile menu you can imagine. Dropdown is for when you want a drop-down list. You saw one of those in the menu structure here, provided by default. You can add as many of those as you like. You can either have a simple drop-down like this one here, one level with just a few links, or with the drop-down element selected, come across to its settings. You can convert it to a multi-level drop-down if you want several levels of navigation in your drop-down, or you can convert it to a mega menu. And then with that selected, you can literally create anything that you want inside the drop-down. It takes up the entire width of the page. Over here in the structure, you can create any kind of layout you like in bricks. Multiple columns, menus, any kind of content you want. Back to the elements list. And toggle, as you know, is for the open and close icons to open and close or toggle your mobile menu. So that's 4 of the new nav elements. The final one is the new text link element, which is up here in the basic group. And as I said before, this element is called text link, but over in the structure, Bricks just relabeled it nav link, so it's clearer the job that it's doing. This is literally just for our reference. Now, one great reason to have all of these elements available separately is that now we can use these even outside of nav menus. So for example, text links. You can drop a text link wherever you like, or you can create your own off-canvas slide-in panels with your own toggles. Lots of flexibility. These don't have to be used within a navigation. And so that's the basic idea of how the new Nestable nav structure works and how flexible it is. And you also now know the 5 new elements we have to play with. Next, let's get on with building the desktop version of the nav.